morning. My name is Abed. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Good morning. My full name is Kim Min-jin, but please, you can just call me Min-jin.
Thank you, Minjin. Can I see your identification, please?
Yes, of course. Here it is.
Thank you. That's fine. Now, in this first part, I'd like to ask you some questions about yourself. Let's talk about accommodation. Do you live in a house or an apartment?
I live in an apartment with my family. It's on the 10th floor of a fairly tall, modern building. Our apartment isn't particularly spacious, but it's quite comfortable and has everything we need: a kitchen, a bathroom, and 3 bedrooms. One of the things I like is that it's quite easy to keep clean, and we actually get a pretty decent view over the city from our living room window.
What kind of accommodation do most people live in your country?
Well, in South Korea, especially in big cities like Seoul, where I live, the vast majority of people live in apartments. You see these huge developments called apartment complexes pretty much everywhere. They're incredibly popular, I think mainly because they're seen as very safe and convenient, often with their own little gyms, convenience stores, and playgrounds right there on site. While you do find more houses in rural areas, in urban centers, apartments are definitely the norm.
Do you like the place where you live? Why or why not?
Yes, on the whole, I do like where I live. Our apartment is quite comfortable and it's usually pretty quiet, which is nice. Our neighbors are generally considerate, and the building itself is kept very clean. A big plus for me is its location. It's really close to my school and, crucially, a subway station, so getting around the city is a breeze. If I had to pick one thing I don't love, it would be the size. It's a little on the small side, and there are times I wish we had a bit more room, perhaps a larger living area or even a dedicated study space.
What would your dream home be like?
Oh, my dream home. That would definitely be a small, detached house, probably somewhere close to nature. Ideally, it would be on the outskirts of a city, so it's peaceful and quiet, but still not too isolated from amenities. I'd absolutely love to have a little garden, maybe grow some flowers, and have a nice spot to sit outside and enjoy the fresh air. Inside, I'd want big windows to let in lots of sunlight and a really cozy, comfortable room dedicated just to reading and unwinding, a sort of personal sanctuary.
Now, I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Here's some paper and a pencil for making notes, and here's your topic. Describe a place where you live or have lived. You should say what kind of place it is, who you lived with, what you like or dislike about it, and explain why it is important to you. You have 1 minute to prepare. You can make notes. All right, remember, you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Okay, so I'd like to talk about the apartment where I currently live in Seoul. It's in a fairly typical modern high-rise building, which has about 15 floors in total, and my family and I live on the 10th floor. I share the apartment with my parents and my younger sister. In terms of layout, it has 3 bedrooms, a living room that's combined with the dining area, a kitchen, and just 1 bathroom. So it's not a huge place by any means, but it has a very warm and cozy atmosphere, which I really appreciate. Speaking of what I like about it, the view from our living room window is definitely a highlight. From there, I can see the mountains in the distance, and at night, the city lights are quite beautiful. Sometimes I just like to sit by the window with a cup of tea and watch the sunset. It's very calming. I also appreciate that our building has pretty good security, and there's a small, well-maintained garden area downstairs where residents can sit. On the other hand, if there's something I don't like, would probably be the thin walls. It's a common issue in some apartment buildings, I think. Occasionally, we can hear our neighbors, or I worry they can hear us, which isn't ideal. Also, because it's not very big, there isn't a lot of space if I want to invite a group of friends over. The reason this place is so important to me is simply because I've lived here since I was a child. It's filled with so many memories, from playing with my sister when we were little, to long nights studying for important exams, and celebrating countless family birthdays. So even though it might just be a small apartment in a big city, it really feels like my whole world and holds a lot of sentimental value for me.
We've been talking about a place where you live. Now I'd like to ask you some more general questions related to accommodation and lifestyle. What are the differences between houses and apartments?
Well, the most obvious difference is usually space and privacy. Houses typically offer more room, often come with their own yard or garden, and you don't have immediate neighbors sharing your walls or ceilings. This generally means more privacy. Apartments, on the other hand, are individual units within a larger building, so they tend to be more compact and you're living in closer proximity to others. While houses might offer more freedom in terms of personalizing your space, apartments are often easier to maintain and can be more conveniently located near city amenities and public transport.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of living in a high-rise apartment?
Living in a high-rise apartment definitely has its pros and cons. A major advantage, especially if you're on a higher floor, is the view. It can be quite spectacular. They also tend to have good security systems, which offers peace of mind, and often they're very conveniently located near shops, schools, and transport links. However, there are downsides. You're reliant on elevators, which can be slow during peak times or even break down. In an emergency, like a fire, evacuating can be more challenging from a high floor. And of course, you usually lack any private outdoor space like a garden, which some people really miss.
Do people prefer to buy or rent homes in your country? Why?
In Korea, there's traditionally a strong aspiration to own a home. Many people, especially once they marry or start a family, feel it provides a sense of stability and achievement. However, property prices, particularly in cities like Seoul, are incredibly high. This means that for many young people, renting is the more realistic option, at least initially. We also have a unique rental system called jeonse, where instead of monthly rent, the tenant pays a very large lump sum deposit, often a significant percentage of the property's value. They then live rent-free for the contract period, and the landlord returns the full deposit at the end. It's quite different from how renting works in many other countries, and it's a popular option for those who can afford the large deposit but want to avoid monthly payments.
How has housing changed in your country over the years?
Oh, housing in Korea has changed dramatically over the past few decades. If you go back a generation or two, many people lived in smaller, detached houses or in traditional Korean homes called hanok, which are quite beautiful with their courtyards and distinctive tiled roofs. But now, especially in urban areas, the landscape is dominated by these massive high-rise apartment buildings and complexes. Today's homes are certainly more modern and equipped with all sorts of conveniences like central air conditioning, elevators, and even smart home technology. While there's no denying the comfort and efficiency, sometimes I do feel a little nostalgic for the older style of housing, which perhaps felt more connected to nature and our traditions.
Thank you very much, Minjun. That is the end of the speaking test.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking with you.